Okay, I'm turning off my Wi-Fi. He already tried calling. I said, dude, settle your shit. Turned your Wi-Fi off?
That's what I'm doing right now.
Okay, well, I had to tell you twice, so that doesn't happen.
Next time's the back of the hand.
Okay, well, that doesn't happen. There he is. Who wants to be your friend? So we say, send dick pic or get the fuck out. That's how we play. That's how we play. Let's call this motherfucker. Motherfucker. Whoa! You look surprised to see us. Hey! Can you see me? How's it going?
Yeah. I'm good. How are you?
Not too bad, not too bad. Real quick, I guess we'll start the video off. If you want to give a bit of an introduction to yourself, obviously you're a well-established coach, big resume, U.S. national team coach. If you just want to give the viewers a little bit of a rundown of your background and some of the accolades on your resume.
Sure. Funny enough, most of the accolades on my resume are from other people and not from myself. But I'll take a win for a win. But I'm a powerlifting coach. My background is actually in mechanical engineering. I went to school for 6 years for that, got my BSME, and then realized that I hated working in the field. And mind you, for the last couple years of my degree, I was simultaneously doing a little bit of part-time coaching on the side, working for the strength athlete at the time, and just kind of gradually building up. I started, like anyone else, I started with one client, and then by the time I graduated, I probably had 13 or 14, and working a couple of part-time jobs on the side with that. And then post-graduation, started working, a real job, as they call it, and I just couldn't stand it. It was awful. And it could have been, I don't know that it was necessarily the career field, it could have been the actual place of work. But I spent so much time twiddling my thumbs in my office, and I couldn't do anything productive, and I couldn't create greater output with my time. So I was really bored by that, and I didn't really see kind of a ladder on which to climb. So meanwhile, I'm doing powerlifting coaching in the background. I'm answering these powerlifting coaching emails at work. That's how I'm spending my time. Mind you, I can't do everything, can't make videos, can't do any of that stuff while I'm sitting in my office. And so it just suddenly clicked to me one day. I did the math. I was like, man, I'm losing money being paid to do this job and not working full time on the other end of the spectrum. So I made that switch about a year ago, early this month, once my student loans were paid off, and haven't looked back since. So it's a pretty exciting thing for me. Like you said, I'm a U.S. national team coach, assistant coach. But so I'm excited to travel to Belarus this year. That's going to be an interesting trip, spending probably around 14 or 15 days total in Europe. And I'm super, super excited about that. And a couple of my guys, or a couple of my people, I would say, not strictly males, lifting over there with Garrett Blevins kind of being the competitive highlight in terms of most likely to finish in the medals, and that's going to be a fun session to watch. If you don't know the kind of the nitty gritty on the details of that, between Garrett and Bryce and Stephen Manuel and Krzystof Wierzbicki, they all four have qualifying totals that have been the world record total within the past 12 months.
That's crazy. The battle of the 105s is probably going to be the most heavily hyped walking into the IPF worlds this year.
Yeah. It's I think it's absolutely going to be the most closely contested, and I'm excited about it. It really pleases me to see more than one or two people as the standouts. In some classes, you kind of get one, and then one person who can almost catch them.
Yeah.
But it's really four people who on a perfect day can all hit crazy numbers, and so it's really going to come down to having excellent prep, taking the time to have a good and not recovery heavy trip and enough prep time actually in Belarus prior to lifting, and then, smart attempt selection.
I want to get into the Battle of the 105s. Like, I really want to dive into this and talk about it, because I honestly believe this has the possibility of being more hyped up than the Brett Gibbs John Hack showdown of last year, because it's a 4-way. But before we get into that, a little more on yourself, though. The company you're with right now, who you work with in terms of within the company, and some of the big athlete names. Then we'll dive into it.
Okay, so I work for the Strength Athlete. Basically, we're kind of a conglomerate of coaches. In terms of what we do, we are strictly powerlifting coaches. Occasionally, a couple of us, not myself, but I know Chris Hayden and actually just Chris Hayden, has previously offered kind of physique coaching of different sorts. He can do it, but I don't think he likes to do it. It's not as much fun. You starve someone and you make them unhappy for 8 or 9 months, or you make them as strong as possible for 8 or 9 months.
Coach misery. You coach misery, right?
That's the key fundamental difference. The training isn't all that different. It's just a matter of do you have them diet into misery, or do you have them diet into Valhalla or happiness? And so we obviously, calories are the way. As for myself, I've actually kind of strategically chosen coaches over the years in terms of how to learn and better myself as an athlete, as a coach, and as a coach. So originally, my goal was to get into bodybuilding. This was like 10 years ago. And when I first got a coach, it was Alberto Nunez of Team 3D Muscle Journey. And I worked with him for 4 years, 5 years, something like that. And then I was really interested in learning about, the DUP, as everyone was calling it at the time. And so I actually got coached by Dr. Mike Zordos for about 19 months or so. And this ended towards the beginning or middle of last year. And then I actually started back up with Alberto towards the end of last year. I don't specifically remember when. So he's currently coaching me. And we're a pretty good fit for each other, because he kind of has the conservative mentality that I need. I can't really, I tend to be pretty injury prone, so I can't really take a very aggressive approach with my own training. Unfortunately, I beat myself up a little too hard kind of over the past, let's say, 24 months. And it's just a laundry list of stuff that's kind of one thing after another. Systems failed each other, and so I'm getting to the point now where I can start to really train hard again, and I'm really excited about that, because I'm a week out from a competition actually today, and so I'm pretty excited to get back out there and hopefully have a good showing.
And how do you feel about being an athlete as well as a coach? Do you think that's a prerequisite to being a good coach, is to actually it doesn't matter necessarily you make it world level, national champ, but just having competed, gaining experience, and enough of experience that you can relate to your athletes? How do you think of that?
100%. It's exactly what you said. I think being an athlete, is particularly powerlifting, or having been an athlete previously, at least recently enough to understand the current rules, I think is critical, really, to success in terms of coaching powerlifters. It's like, and this is something I try to explain to friends pretty frequently. I'll be out with friends, and I'll meet someone new, and they'll introduce me as a personal trainer, and I find that incredibly aggravating.
Yeah, that's a slap in the face, no?
Honestly, I didn't get a 6 week or 6 hour course to get my CPT.
Yeah.
There's really not a certification for what we do. There are people who sell them, but it's ultimately what powerlifting coaching isn't really comprised by a 4-hour course. And so, much like I wouldn't call a basketball coach a personal trainer.
Yeah.
All that being said, in any case where we're talking about a sport-specific coach, a really, really firm grasp of the rules and the execution and all the intricacies of the sport are important. So having competed at least for some period of time, I think will give an advantage to the understanding of the sport from a coaching perspective. I think having done many, many competitions will give a deeper understanding. You talk to some of these high-level coaches that have been around for years, and the knowledge they have of the little rules is the things that you really kind of want to know. And someone like Kathy Marksteiner, she's not a coach, but she's been powerlifting for a while, and she's kind of one of the the higher ups in USA powerlifting, and I mean, she can quote like any rule from the book by the wording that is in the book, and it's and for me, I'm kind of a nerd, and so that's awesome. I think that's super cool, but and I like to know the rules, and that's kind of just the type of person that I am, but in her case, she's been competing for a long time, and because of that, inherent with having studied the rules, she knows them well, and she can always answer those questions. And so I try to be that kind of person for my clients, and I feel that someone who had never competed wouldn't quite have the same appreciation. They wouldn't understand the feeling of missing an opening squat, for example, which unfortunately I do know the feeling of in my first competition ever. And so being empathetic in a situation like that is hard. So to give a short answer, that what should have been a short answer, yes, I do think it's important.
No, man, we don't like short answers. There's nothing worse than, what do you think of this? Yes. Okay, yes. This is going to be a 10-minute interview. No, I like the long answers. So in terms of the organization you guys are working with right now, who else are the coaches that are on your team that athletes get when they approach? Okay,
so we've got 5 on our team. We've got Bryce Lewis, obviously. He's pretty obvious, kind of the face of the organization.
And that's I was going to try to get to. We'll get to that because he's amongst the 105s, and you're training the guy. And yeah, that's what the segue I was looking for. Thank you, but let's.
I know. Well, okay, so we'll start over. I'll say Bryce last.
Yeah, there we go. And
so we got. Yeah, exactly. We've got Eric Bodhorn, who is based in Colorado, along with Bryce. He's in Fort Collins. Really, really smart dude. What did he do before? I think he worked in a rehab center for people with physical disabilities. And so having done that, he has a really interesting and different grasp on kind of human movement. And he got into coaching with Strength Athlete very, very shortly after I did. I'm not sure if he was coaching before. I think he may have been. Chris Hayden, who started with us about 2 years ago, actually, he just posted about his 2-year anniversary with the team. And he was coaching for several years before that with a couple different teams, I think the Strength guys in Italy. And Joe Stanek, who was recently promoted from being our intern, he is in upstate New York. And he is maturing quite nicely as a coach. And lastly, Bryce Lewis, obviously, who, like you said, is one of the many in the battle of the 105s. And a good friend of mine. I've been friends with Bryce now for probably since my second competition or my first competition. When we realized we only lived about 45 minutes from each other when he was in California, and so we would train together when possible. Wasn't all that often, because if you're familiar with California at all, 45-minute no traffic drive is a 2.5-hour traffic drive if you're going through LA. And so it was like if you didn't time it just right, if you didn't get on the freeway at 5 in the morning, it was not taking 45 minutes.
Yeah. So walking into this, it's got to be a little weird knowing you're coaching. So Bryce is a friend of yours. He's a colleague of yours, a business partner of yours, and you're training a guy to go head-to-head with Bryce at the World Championships with the world watching. And that's just half of the piece. That's what helps make the Battle of the 105s. Not only are these guys passing back and forth the world records like it's a freaking, a football, but you also have the other background story here between you guys, you coaching a guy to beat your friend, colleague, etc. Walking in, it's like, how is that? Who handles Bryce? And let's talk about that.
That's the question everybody wants to ask. Like, how do you feel about coaching a guy that could potentially beat your boss? And I'm like, first of all, we are not structured like that. So Brian, like I said, Bryce and I are old friends, and at this point, I would consider Garrett a very close friend. And when you reach a certain point in powerlifting, it's you stop hating the guy that beats you, and it's not like a super high level of powerlifting maturity where you reach that point anyway. It's just kind of when you learn to grasp the idea that it's just about improvement, and really it's kind of a you versus you thing. Obviously, when you get to the world level, winning is awesome, and so everybody wants to walk away with gold, and the pick of the litter is Krzystof right now at the world level, but I think everybody's going to come in and kind of be surprisingly strong on that day. But it basically works out that, Bryce and I have had this conversation. It's just a matter of, going out there and creating the best day possible for each of them. So it's not like I'll be sabotaging Bryce in any way. I'm not involved in his training in any way.
How much does Bryce know about your boy's training, though? Like, does he know? Does he ask questions about it? Or does he be like, look, man, I know I can talk to you about it, but I'm not even going to ask? Does he respect that as well? Or?
He knows as much about that as he would about any other client of mine. So for perspective, currently I have probably just north of 40 clients, and so in terms of like weekly coaching clients, and at least for Garrett's training, we have kind of a different to normal kind of coach athlete interaction, which I'll get into in a sec. But typically Bryce wouldn't see what's going on to the clients other than in terms of training. It's not like there's some approval process or anything. It's if he asks, I'm happy to send him anyone's, because we'll toss ideas back and forth and kind of look at each other's training protocols, or occasionally I'll put something together and I'll be like, man, this is fire. You guys got to look at this. And that happened to me actually like a week ago. I was super excited. I put a training protocol together and I looked at it and it was kind of like, man, this is the one.
Yeah.
So I sent it to him. I call
it the Bryce killer. Take a look at it, Bryce. What do you think? I got Garrett doing it. Bryce, like, I don't know how to take this, bro. I don't know. Yeah, can we change the name of it?
No, it was a random client. I liked the layout. But so as for Garrett, that's an interesting coaching relationship. So I started with coaching him about 2 years ago and some change, and basically this was when I was a little more green as a coach, and I kind of had a little bit less of a respect for the recovery process. This was kind of prior to me going through all of my injuries, and I gave him way too much, way too much, like a program that would have killed anyone. It was like a program meant for a thoroughbred racehorse, and I was taking it and putting it on like a carnival pony. It's like how he reacted, in terms of how he handled that program was just too much. And but he was very coachable, and he ran it to the T right up until he couldn't, which was sooner than you would think.
Which was day 2.
Yeah, I got an email on day 3. He's like, Annie, I don't know if I can do this. No, it wasn't quite that fast, but it certainly came on pretty quickly, and it was just a tremendous amount of volume, and we learn and we grow from these things, and it was valuable experience for me as a coach and for Garrett as a lifter, actually, to learn more about what he can and cannot tolerate. But over time, our relationship has kind of gradually developed into us working together to develop a training protocol for him. And so he kind of will create something, and he'll send it to me. I'll make a couple changes and send it back. And we kind of bounce back and forth until we reach a happy medium that we both agree on. And all of this within the context of a particular layout of peaking that we have figured out that works for him as of a few meets ago. So if you were to look at Garrett's meet history since we started, there's a few tough meets, and then it's been like 9 for 9, 9 for 9, 9 for 9 the past 3.
You've really progressed well with Garrett. Like, this is, if you can hang your hat on an athlete that you've helped, the last couple of years for him have been bonkers.
He's always been strong. I don't want to take the credit for his strength. Garrett's a tremendous athlete. I feel that the biggest thing that I've been able to share with him has been kind of more mental approach to taking a meet day. Training-wise, more of what I'll do is kind of trim the fat and be like, you don't need to do that. You don't need to do that. Or, point out things that he needs to work on. But when it comes to what I feel that I've actually had kind of an imprint on, it's more related to how he approaches his meet days and kind of how he's picking numbers, and the fact that he puts a lot of faith in it when I kind of tell him, that's the ceiling, dude. I don't think we can go any higher than that.
Yeah.
Which is important, and sometimes you need someone to tell you that. So to answer your question about Bryce, I don't think he's ever seen anything except for maybe the original Garrett programs, which are from 2 years ago and completely outdated and not even remotely the same.
So the thing with Garrett, so he's definitely, his best lift is probably the squat, no?
Squat and the bench are pretty comparable.
And the bench, he's a subtotal guy. Yeah. And to an extent, so walking into the battle of the 105s, it's interesting. It's kind of like powerlifting is kind of like MMA when you got guys with different strengths, right? Where obviously Krzystof who you said at this point is kind of pushing ahead into is like a front runner, maybe a bit of a favorite in the Battle of 105s, although with these cats, who the hell knows what's going to happen. He's a little different because while there's a lot of big squatters in the 105 Battle of the 105s, he is that deadlift guy who will have the final say to possibly chip it in. To possibly, what do I need to pull to beat it? And God, if anybody can do that, it's Krzystof. The guy's maybe the greatest deadlifter the IPF's ever seen. That's arguable, debatable, but so walking in there like that, not just your boy, but I bet you all of them have to kind of contend with, how do you pace yourself? Are you guys, is your game plan to push it as far as you can in the subtotal, or you know, what do you guys think of walking in? Do you guys game plan for that?
You know, we've talked about it a little bit, and we're going to talk about it a little more when we get closer, because we kind of dictate these things based on how Garrett's training feels kind of closer to the meet. But basically, I have some numbers in my mind just from having watched the Arnold that I think are, you know, depending on how productive training was between March and June, that I think are probably going to be the ceiling for Worlds. We'll see. I think we did a pretty solid job picking the right numbers at the Arnold. I think he maybe had another 2.5 on the squat, and that's it. Yeah. So ultimately, the goal is going to be to take the biggest possible subtotal, and which it presents a difficulty, you know, because that means getting every single kilo out.
You can't miss. If you miss that, that's exactly it. That's what's going to make this battle so good, because you know Krzystof is watching. Like, if you miss your third squat or bench, he's like, "Oh shit, now I got you." You're right. Like, that just means I have to pull a little less to take that win, and everybody's in that boat, except for maybe
So we're in a best position, or we're in, well, actually I consider it to be a tough position, to be the worst puller. So Garrett is just a little bit behind Stephen Manuel in terms of being the lowest max deadlifter in the group, but he has by a pretty decent margin. Well, I wouldn't say a decent margin over Stephen, but he is the best squatter and the best bencher. And Krzystof, on the opposite end of the spectrum, is the worst squatter and the worst bencher. And so but he's in the best possible situation because he gets to know exactly what he needs, and he gets plenty of time. There will be no chance that anyone out deadlifts him. And so it's
take a miracle. Miracle, man. Hey, that happens. People convert to whatever their shit.
They gotta learn. They gotta introduce the 2-man deadlift before anyone is
a quick set change. Stephen Manuel and Garrett have become a tag team.
That's what they would need. But honestly, I'm excited though. I haven't. Krzystof doesn't speak English. I've met him, but it's like I didn't really get an opportunity to talk to him much. But all the guys who are at the top of the 105s they're all just class acts, man. Steven's he's a joker and a troll online, but he's a good guy.
Little fucking bit. We all seen his bare ass.
We've all seen. Someone's got to have the long talk with Adam Palmer about those posts. But no, aside from the kind of questionably homoerotic photos,
I don't know if I use the term erotic for some of those. You can't
whatever the word choice is. He's a good guy. Underneath, well, there's not really anything about underneath, but and obviously Bryce's friend, Garrett's friend, Krzystof seems like a nice enough guy. Most of what I see of him though is photos of biceps and videos of deadlifts on his Instagram. But yeah, I'm just excited. It's gonna be a lot of fun.
You know what's funny? So I'll let you go in 1 second, Brandon. You know what's funny is how you coded it. Okay, so you have, I love the cast of characters, first off. That's why the Battle of 105s is so intriguing. Because you have Screaming Manuel, who is straight up a character. Like, he's a flippin' character. Those pictures he puts up, you see him in interviews, his nickname, Screaming Manuel, the way he takes the stage. I love it, right? He brings that flavor to it. Bryce is a Grizzly veteran. He's a little more reserved with it. Bit around the block, coming from the U.S., and then Garrett with the whole background story. Teammates, not just on the U.S. team, which is good, but also coming from the same camp as well, and yourself in the mix. Great background story. And then you have Krzystof, who's almost like the Ivan Drago. You know what I mean? Doesn't speak good English, but the guy seems inhuman. He literally seems inhuman. Like and he's done it at the world level before, where whatever I need to do, pull to win it, load the bar, and he's like at the 93 kilo. I forget who he pulled the one year. Came down to the last deadlift, and everyone's like, "There's no flipping way he's gonna pull this." Pulled it for the win. And it was, I forget how much it was, well into the 800s. It was a world record by far. And so he's like the Ivan Drago, where like it's a bit of the language barrier, but also you don't smile very much, man. I seen him in like real life, took a picture. Can I get a picture with you? And it's, you know, he's, even for pictures, he's like, you know, that Eastern Bloc European, almost the dead, you know, the Terminator, which is also like, you need that. You can't have 4 Jokers. You can't have 4, like, you need a different cast. So it makes them, and everyone represents where they're from so well that it's such an intriguing battle of the 105s.
Yeah, actually, that's completely true. Like, Bryce and Garrett are Southern California guys, and so they're just relaxed Southern California people. And Stephen Manuel is so quintessentially British. It is amazing.
Humor. Dude, his humor is, like, so British. For us who aren't used to, like, what the shit is this? What is this guy talking about?
My mom's English, and so I can really appreciate Stephen, and so it's, for me, I get a lot out of that.
When we would, like, on the IPF Instagram Q&As, he'd be trolling, like, Owen Hubbard about, like, you know, just on there with this British humor, and Owen's like, man, expect this from the Brits, man. This is how they joke around. Like, he is, like, so British, and represents him well. Yeah.
And, you know, what you said about him, about Krzystof being like Ivan Drago is, you know, you're not wrong. He kind of does have that look. He kind of disappeared into mysterious training and came back 30 pounds heavier with no extra body fat.
Shit, man.
Yeah, man. It's crazy.
He was a 93. Like, as a 93, the guy could step on stage and do bodybuilding. And then when he left and came back for 105, now he hasn't filled out 105, but he's still, like, considerably better.
He has now. He's like 228 now.
What the shit? Has he?
Yeah.
And he's still jacked as shit. Like, he is jacked,
just as lean.
Just as lean. Like, he is literally, I don't know if he's been for a long time fighting to stay 93 kilo. If he was, I mean, it looks like you would say on the surface, oh, he put on like 30 pounds of body weight. But perhaps near the end, the guy was cutting like enormous amounts of water, just killing himself. He's like, I can't do it.
It's possible. I don't think it's likely. We don't see a lot of those crazy water cuts kind of in Eastern Bloc style training. So you look at someone like Yuri Belkin, for example, and several meets in a row, Yuri just went in and competed at like 222 pounds instead of cutting down to 220 to compete as 100 kilo. Just because they don't do the weight cuts. Some of them would if they're in contention at the world level. They're 1-2 pounds off, but historically speaking, and this may just be a Russian thing, but I think he probably actually just gained that weight, which is why we saw Krzystof competing in the middle of the 105s for quite a while. Yeah. He was like 97, 98, 99. Actually, no, you know, you're right. I think he hasn't filled out the class yet. I think he's still just around 99 kilos, which leaves room for further growth.
Because I think it's when he broke the world record. I think he might have been around 99 kilos. We could double check. And there's people watching this, like, dude, they already know the answer. But
in any case, he was under the class by 5 or 10 pounds.
Which is kind of fucked up because 5 more kilos is like 12 more pounds, and when it's him, it's going to be muscle.
I don't think that guy's given up any of his, you know, abs or bicep cuts or anything. He ain't coming in chubby.
No, that's for sure. He's getting chubby.
So I don't think we need to worry about that. I think it would be a deep threat if we did. I think we'd probably see a nice, healthy increase on the squat if he put on 10 pounds.
Even if it's even a little bit of fat, man. Like, 10 pounds of fat, his squat would definitely go up.
Yeah, absolutely, and his bench might as well. But he's got that trade-off. He's got freaking monkey arms, man. And so that guy, I mean, he's the ultimate counterpoint of leverages when you look at a guy like, you use Garrett Blevins as the opposite example. The guy has, you know, if he stands up straight and holds his arms down, they're basically just below his hips, whereas Krzystof stands up straight and his hands are basically at his knees.
That's Randy right now shaking his head. I mean, Randy needs to tilt to grab something in the bottom of his pockets. You know what I mean? That's how short his hands are. It's just, it is what it is. It helps you on the bench, and obviously the squat, that's fine, but yeah, the deadlift, Jesus.
Yeah, man.
It's definitely...
It's an unfortunate trade-off, but everyone's got to be good at one thing, right?
That's it. And Randy, you were going to say something?
How much do you think it's going to benefit your guys' organization for taking on new clients with bringing 2 athletes into the Worlds at 105? I mean, 2 top contenders.
Oh, the exposure's got to be nice. No matter who wins, you win.
That's kind of what I was getting at.
You got 50-50 shot.
It's a win-win. I mean, whether they take first or just placement in there, it's a win-win.
Somebody does something that looks good.
Yeah, it's obviously a good thing from like an advertising standpoint. But this is kind of one of my qualms with coaching in general. I think too many people judge coaching businesses by their standouts, where, someone like Garrett Blevins at this point in time would have a crazy total, maybe not 1956 or whatever we totaled at the Arnold, but he would have a crazy total at this point in time regardless. And so he's a standout. I would much rather be judged by people that I've taken from intermediate to advanced than the elites I've taken to very elite. But that being said, what the public sees is what the public sees, and sometimes that means that they're going to judge me based on people who like Garrett Blevins, for example. So I'm absolutely excited. I think it's going to be a bigger attraction from some of those people who maybe don't know who we are, or which at this point is not like a huge population like it was at one point. But I think it'll be good.
I seen recently one of your athletes got a scholarship into a university.
Yeah, Henry Deers, actually. He's going to be competing in Belarus as well, as a matter of fact. And he's in contention for second place in the, what is he, a Teen 3? I don't remember. But I think he has to be a Teen 3 because he's going into college. But, he got a full ride to Midland University in Nebraska, I believe it is. And that's like a $17,500 a year scholarship. And honestly, probably the coolest thing I've helped someone to accomplish as a coach. That's like a really, really tangible, long-term benefit to his life that I have been.
You just changed his life.
Some small piece of. And so, I didn't.
He'd probably be in a gang if it wasn't for you.
He would absolutely be
a drug addict in a gang. You saved his
some weird 16-year-old white kid gang.
That's right. And, you're like Coach Carter, man. They gotta make a movie about this.
Yeah, exactly. Call it Colors. It'll be about the different coaching teams. That's right. No, it's like that's a $70,000 scholarship when it's all said and done.
That's
And I honestly, I'm really happy for him. Henry's a good kid, super, super coachable. I'm not excited about not coaching him anymore because he made a tremendous amount of progress. But I mean, it's like, for me, it's like, honestly, take it, cool.
Yeah,
like, that's awesome. You're gonna give him a scholarship. He'll come back to me in the summers because he knows what's best.
Yeah,
and
I like that. You sounded like a father right there. You sound like his father. He knows. I knows what's best for him.
No. It's I'm only mostly kidding when I say that, but.
That's an awesome. I love that phrase.
I brought him into this. I'll take him out.
I'm only mostly kidding.
Yeah, no. He's a great kid. He stands to place this year at Worlds, which is really cool. If he has a perfect day and hits all of what I see as reasonable stretch goals for him, and the couple guys ahead of him miss maybe one attempt, he could potentially take first in his class, which is crazy. And we're very excited about that. He won a pretty close race at Raw Nationals, and so he's very excited about that. It's got to be crazy for a 17-year-old to travel to Belarus.
If you're going to give him to the university, that'd be a nice little. You can have him now, a world champion. And like you said, you will have taken him there, right? So that's pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, Henry he's come a long way. He started as a 59-kilo national champion last year, I think, or contender at some level, and it's just like he gained, 7 kilos, and it was just like everything took a leap. It was crazy how much stronger he got. Probably put 250 pounds on his total since we started.
Are you seeing more and more of this, and or is that the first time in the U.S. for seeing that for universities giving full rides on this?
There's my understanding is that there's a select few schools that are doing it. And these are going to be the schools that have the really big programs that are actually giving money away. Full rides, I think, are fewer and further between. Midland is one of the few schools that's giving out several of those, to my understanding. I think I'm probably a little bit ill-equipped to answer this question. There's a guy named Zach Cooper. He's kind of really in tune with the collegiate level of USA powerlifting, and he would have a better answer for you on that. So I could probably get in touch with him and find out. I'm sure there's probably less than 5 schools that are doing full rides.
That's still pretty cool, man.
Yeah, hell yeah, I think it's awesome. I mean, that makes it more impressive to me. He got a full ride to one of, he got probably one of less than 50 of those scholarships nationwide.
So who would be in contention? Like, what maybe you don't know the answer, but are they just going off Wilkes? Like, how crazy would that be to think you get university scholarships with your Wilkes? Like, that's crazy. What's your numbers?
That's a world I want to live in.
I know, man. I know.
I think it's probably like any other scholarship where it's merit based as well as athletic skill based. So how do they pick the running back for USC? You got to be a decent student and you got to be an excellent football player.
Yeah.
And for his age, Henry is an excellent powerlifter, and I don't know about his grades, but as far as I know, he's not failing. And so,
you gotta start looking into that. Pretty soon, that'll be protocol with you guys. You'll be like, "What's your grades at, man?"
We're gonna sign up. What's your high school GPA?
That's
right.
That's
for team level.
That's right. We gotta bring those up.
I just find it interesting because it's also going to start opening up coaching jobs at these universities too. Will it not? Or
no shit. Oh, didn't even think about that.
Yeah, there's actually at Midland. I know there's a coach in place who's one of the USA powerlifting kind of vets. It would be pretty cool to have to be in a situation where you're at the head of a program like that, a powerlifting program that has kind of some scholarships to give out. Because Collegiate Nationals actually is supposed to be the most exciting competition we have in the U.S. As you can imagine, it's just teams of, in some cases, as many as like 50, 60 people when you're talking about it. A team like LSU. And it's just got to get wild because you've got your whole team cheering for you while you're lifting.
Your whole school, man, that's...
Yeah, exactly. And so it's supposed to be just a crazy, crazy good time, super hyped up. And so, if more and more programs could get involved with that, that would obviously be very cool. The growth of powerlifting is good for all of us in pretty much all aspects of this. Me on the coaching side, for obvious reasons, and good for the organization in general, just looking gradually more and more legitimate in the eyes of non-powerlifters. And that's really what the kind of the big threshold for us to cross. It's
pretty soon you'll be like, guys, like you'll be showing up at these championships scouting. Be like, hey, here's my number. Call me. You got a future.
We can only hope. I keep a stack of business cards in my gym bag specifically for that. Right. You never know. I've only ever given out like 3, but once in a while you just you have that conversation and you just throw out a card.
Well, in a sport that's only recently taken on, like, people start making a little money off sponsorships and coaching and stuff like that. I just find it interesting that one day there may be a payback to it. Like, people, especially these people with 20, 30 years in, or yourself who's done USA coaching.
They pay the dues.
Like, has an opportunity to be able to walk into a university, apply for that job, and be paid well to actually do what you love.
Yeah.
That's like the dream, right?
Yeah.
To be given a program at a university, that would be like the absolute
dream. That'd be amazing.
Funded. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like you get your own gym. It's funded. The best of the best equipment. Like
that obviously is what's the term I'm looking for? That's like ascension to the next level. And ultimately, if that's a direction we end up going, that's something we're all going to be super excited about. Myself especially, because like you said, I get my own program, apply for that. I've got some qualifications or something like that. That's sweet. Yeah. But that's not an essential to my happiness. It's not. I'm not hungry, and so it's I don't need a university program to keep me happy. I'm just as happy to help people progress from afar and not be liable for their grades.
Well, that's another thing too.
Well, I mean, having that in the program too is huge for the athletics. I mean, the U.S. universities, the athletics is huge, but having a strength and conditioning coach travels off more than just powerlifting.
Well, that's also it would also open doors for if you were the powerlifting coach at university. Absolutely, the football team be like, hey, we're going to the weight room. Let's grab the powerlifting coach and go. Like, you would actually be able to branch off and work with several athletes. That's true. Yeah. And the money involved in football. Man, you saddle up to the right guy who's going to the NFL, and he's like, look, when I was training in university and he was handling me, he's going to be my guy. Like, I felt like, well, you know what I mean? Anyways, I'm putting all this shit on.
That's an extreme hypothetical. When you're talking about,
we're dreaming now, but
big money D1 programs, they have dedicated football strength and conditioning coaches. Yeah. And that's kind of a good old boys club. When I was first kind of getting into the idea of working with people for just the goal of increasing strength, I kind of did some research on that subject. What does the path look like to get to being, the UCLA's strength and conditioning coach for the football team? And that is not an easy path.
No.
It's just not like you walk in and apply for that job.
Yeah.
That is something where you're going to be working hours, and basically this guy has a head job. It's kind of like being the head nurse, right? You don't really, you have a bunch of underlings who work underneath you for nothing. And so if anything, if money at all, it could be university students. And so you're investing just hundreds or thousands of hours into this program for nothing or next to nothing, for the opportunity to maybe one day be given the chance to apply for the job, and then have it go to someone else, and then have it go to someone else who's part of the good old boys club already. Yeah. So it's certainly something that's a super sexy idea. I don't know that it's practical.
Yeah, very true, very true.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, and for because we're in Canada, and for us Canadians trying to envision how it would be like at the collegiate level in terms of like a powerlifting meet. See, we get told stories of, if you guys like have high school football, high school wrestling, you're packing like thousands of people to show up and watch. For us, man, we have the nationals, and we'll have maybe the same level amount of people showing up for we don't. Like one of your high school state championships, we don't nearly have the same support in terms of sports with funding, etc. So
I was at Canadian Nationals this past March in Saguenay, which was a terrible location. I don't know why they would do that there.
I almost died driving there, man.
Yeah, I drove up there too. I actually, so my girlfriend lives in Toronto right now, which is a whole different story of its own. And so I rented a car and we drove Toronto to Montreal to Quebec City to Saguenay. And, that's a pretty long drive on its own. And pretty treacherous, actually. I was really glad I got an all-wheel drive car. That's a lot of icy roads and stuff.
I was knuckling it, man. There was transport trucks. I shit you not, a transport truck was off to the side of the road. It looked like it had blown up or some shit. It was incinerated. There was the 401, our major highway, completely shut down. People died on this. It was just terrible timing. And I'm driving there. I was white knuckling. Holy smokes! My girl was like, I can't believe you're doing this. It was crazy. It's a crazy snowstorm. Just for people who know.
The people were awesome. It's actually a beautiful place. We stayed in an Airbnb with what ended up being the weirdest host. It was cool because we kind of rented a room because all the Airbnbs were taken because I waited too long to book. And I don't think there's a whole lot of Airbnbs in tiny ass little Saguenay anyway. And so it was like a room in someone's house, and it ended up being super funny. He had 3 cats, I think, and a bird. And the bird, it was this gorgeous parrot, but it would sit there with the cage open, and the cats would walk around and stare into the cage and be like, "Stop on me," but they wouldn't actually get the parrot. It was like they knew better. It was cool.
Yeah.
And then the highlight of the whole trip was, aside from one of my girls won the Canadian National Championship, which was cool, but that wasn't the highlight of the trip. The real highlight of this trip was the fact that I had left in the morning to go and coach somebody, and I'd left Christine behind, and the owner of the house had thought that we both left. And so Christine gets up in the morning, opens the door, walks out into the kitchen, and in the kitchen is the almost entirely stark naked owner of the house, in just tight yellow underwear, dancing around, eating chips right out of the bag, right in front of my girlfriend. He drops the chips and screams, runs into the room, and it was incredible. Yeah, it's truly deer in the headlights. But that was kind of the highlight story of the trip, and I'm sure Christine got a good laugh out of that. But yeah, man, I love Canada, and I can see powerlifting growing there as well. Point of bringing up Saguenay was, there was a decent audience there. I think there was probably 40 seats, and at a couple points there were, 3/4 full. That was location based more than anything. I think if you took the same competition, you put it in Toronto or you put it in Vancouver.
Calgary's hosting next year. Calgary's got 1 million people.
Yeah, and Calgary will be a lot of fun, and a more fun location, I think, particularly in that time of the year. For myself, I like snow sport, and so the opportunity to just take my board and have a little bit of fun afterward, that's encouragement for me to pay to take that trip, because I can make it more than just a trip for powerlifting.
With the Saguenay, I think it was, I know Joey Bowles, the guy who hosted it, and he's won national championships. He's a long time lifter in the CPU, so he threw out the bid, and with everything he put into sport, he's got a hell of a team in Quebec. I think actually there's it's weird, even though it's kind of an off in the middle of nowhere city. That little city actually hosts like 3-4 national champions or national caliber like gold or silver medals. Just happens to be one of those.
I think Jessica Benedetto.
She is
from Saguenay. Actually, I was talking to her for a little bit.
She's cousin.
And I found that so strange.
Yeah, man, it's a little mini hotbed. So it feels kind of weird. Like, why that city? Well, it's kind of like a powerlifting city. The only thing is, just you can plan a picnic, you can't plan the weather. Damned if the worst. Like Quebec's really gets a lot of snow. That was a crazy snowstorm, man. Like that was a planes shut down, people miss flights. It was just bad timing. That's not Joey Bull's fault. It is what it is. But
absolutely. And was the same location in the summer. I could see being a little better. I think it's if it were in a major city. If it wasn't 2 plane rides and a car ride away,
and then 3 hours horseback.
Yeah, and
through the mountains.
I think it would be more accessible. But as I understand it, there wasn't like some people weren't exactly tripping over themselves to bid to take on Canadian nationals this year. So I think
that's another thing.
Did you only go up there to for your athlete, or was there some other reason?
To give you a little background, the athlete that I was going up there most specifically for was a 63-kilo competitor, Christine Castro, who I've been coaching for a little over 2 years now. It was her first national championship competition, and I just wanted to be there kind of to give her support. I told her when she started, I was like, when you go to nationals, I will be there. And I didn't want to break that promise. And so it had been...
It's in Saguenay, you're like, shit!
Yeah, I know, man. And the last one was in Alberta or something, so it was a little bit more accessible. But she ended up... The qualification standards are kind of convoluted for Canada, and so to actually get to nationals is kind of a task.
Yeah.
But
telling me,
particularly when you're from Alberta, they have to. Well, in any case, doesn't matter. And so she finally qualified, and she was going, and so I went. It ended up being worthwhile. We had to call like a crazy third attempt that I don't think anybody would have called for her but me on her deadlift, and she ended up getting it and winning, which was awesome.
Yeah.
But yeah, she was the kind of the primary reason for going up there.
Yeah, she had a really good day. I watched that.
I wouldn't call that a really good day. She made one squat and 1 bench press.
But her total
and 3 deadlifts.
Her total was up though, was it not?
No, actually. So she went into the deadlifts behind by I think 15 kilos, and or something like that. And so she had made her opening squat. We lowered her opener on bench, and she missed it the first time. Made it the second time, and then missed her third.
Holy shit, man!
Yeah, man, I was shitting myself the whole day. And,
whoa!
And we made the first and second deadlift on plan, and then the third was basically a kilo above what I had kind of set as the hard ceiling beforehand. I was like, we got to go for it. How do we not go for that?
Yeah, that makes a better story anyways, though. 9 for 9 is good. 9 for 9 is good, but it's... All right, I went 9 for 9, didn't miss a single lift, and I won, and that was that. But it's better where you're like, I got 1 squat, and they're like, all right, we'll pick it up in the bench. I got 1 bench. It's like, holy shit, we got a hard ceiling for the dead. We got to go above it, and you win? That's the story everyone wants to hear.
Yeah, right? Well, I mean, that was crazy. Frankly, I was impressed that actually happened. That was kind of, you can watch the replay video. I was in the background, like, covering my head in disbelief. But that was cool. I hated having to call that number. I wish because we should have been running away with it, quite frankly, because we left about 12 or 15 kilos on the platform on the squat and about 5 or 7.5 on the bench.
What do you think happened there in terms of pace? Was just slightly too much, or what happened?
It wasn't the wrong numbers or anything. It's this is one of the issues for Christine as a competitor. She is incredibly strong. She's strong like a seasoned powerlifter, but her experience is incredibly limited. That was her 4th competition ever, and I think only her 3rd actual sanctioned one. I think 4th. So for her, there's a lot of nerves going on there, and she's making a lot of the mistakes that we would all make at our 2nd or 3rd meet at a national championship. Mm-hmm. And so it was just some fundamental things went out for 1 attempt with her belt too tight on her squat, and then her leg cramped on her 3rd squat, which sucked, man, because she had that too. She was on the way up, and it was great. She just collapsed to the side, and Or no, her leg came out from under her. That's what it was. She had to step her leg out because she started to cramp. And it's like, what are you going to do in that situation? Step your damn leg out.
Yeah.
Bench, that's a different animal. We're working on that. And that's kind of technique related. And deadlift obviously went okay. But yeah, unfortunately they were the correct numbers for the day. They were just, or well, they obviously weren't the correct numbers for that day. They were the correct numbers for a good day. She unfortunately just had some kind of minor technical issues that are just inherent with less experienced competitors, and I'm glad that she got this out of the way. We have her doing kind of another, she's competing at Worlds in Belarus, and then she's doing just a practice competition, working up to like openers as her third attempts at some point between now and then, just to get out there and kind of shake off the cobwebs.
You know what we wanted to ask you about? I know we're kind of driving off topic, but while it's on the top of my head, we just got into a discussion right now. Did you see the Yuri Belkin deadlift that's floating around all over like almost every single powerlifting page? I know you're avid follower of King of the Lifts. We posted it. I know you never miss a post, but we also posted it. Did you see it?
I did, actually, yeah.
And what are your thoughts? There's a lot of comments. I don't know the specifics, but I know like everyone's all about, because this record with Ed Cohen, like everyone, he's a GOAT, he's a legend, whatever. Ed Cohen did it in a 3 lift and not on a deadlift bar. Was that a deadlift only meet that Yuri did it, and was it a deadlift bar? Do you know? Because some people are saying that was on a deadlift bar on a deadlift only meet.
It was probably on a deadlift bar. But that was definitely a 3 lift meet. The total is or actually I won't say definitely a 3 lift meet because I haven't seen the other lifts, but at least from what I've seen, the posts that have been floating around about it, they're saying that there's a total associated with it and a couple of other lifts. So I'm just assuming on the surface that it actually was. That looked tremendously easier than his miss just a week earlier. So either he mastered the hook grip in that week, or he was, which, it's possible. But someone was, I read a comment somewhere, and, this is hearsay, so it might be total bullshit, but someone made a comment that, he knew what he needed to win. He knew that he had the win locked in at the U.S. Open. Nobody was going to pull more than him. And so he didn't need to make that. And there was maybe some monetary incentive for him breaking that record at a meet in Russia. And so there's the possibility for that. I think that's probably the most likely situation, because that was a huge difference for 1 week. And so just to be able to turn around and compete back to back like that and be
in a week, that's
within a reasonable.
A week later, I'm like laid up doing nothing, man. For him to and that monumental deadlift record of Ed Cohen's of all a week later, like this dude in a week span won the biggest payoff we've ever seen in powerlifting, and then turns around and beats probably the most iconic record we got in powerlifting back to back like this. Who is this guy?
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. I'm actually kind of fascinated by. This is one of the reasons I'm more fascinated by Krzystof. You look at Krzystof, and he just narrowly missed that same weight on a stiff bar.
Yeah.
And not 2-3 months ago.
Tested too. He's been blood tested.
And that was at the Polish meet that he nearly missed that. The meet where he would have gotten blood tested would have been the European Championships, where he missed a chunk more or a chunk less than that. But that is an entirely different subject that I don't want to get into.
I was gonna say, are we going there? What's going on?
No, I don't do the witch hunt thing, man. It's innocent until proven guilty.
That's fair enough.
Like OJ. Totally is.
But then you threw that in there.
No.
But
I have no proof. There's no proof whatsoever. Just me feeling inadequate with my fingers. And,
we all got small dicks when that conversation comes up with a guy.
Yeah, man. It's like, how much do you deadlift? Oh,
yeah.
Happy you, bro.
About like the whippy bar though, like. How do you feel? That's the problem when you're comparing this dude lifted under certain circumstances and this guy lifted under a different. That's what the problem with, because it's not the same fed, these all-time records.
And it's true. You'll never have a comparison really between what Ed Cohen did on that day and what someone's going to do now. And frankly, people like to say, well, Ed would have lifted ABC now and would have been so much better. But the fact of the matter is, we have no way of knowing that. That's like talking about how Michael Jordan would play in today's NBA.
Yeah.
It's completely irrelevant, number one, and you can't really. There's no way to know that it was someone like that made great on his own, or by the people who surrounded him, or a combination of both. And so there's absolutely a difference when you talk about something like the deadlift bar versus the stiff bar. But you can look at what was the standard. It was one camera view.
That's surprising with the money they have.
And I heard I didn't hear the commentating, but I heard it was kind of and
not just it's the IPF World's commentating.
Yeah, and that's the comparison point we get is that you go and you watch the live stream for the Arnold or for IPF Worlds, and it's a multi-camera, really well commentated, live scoreboard, high resolution, awesome stream for free. And so how are you gonna charge for something that's 1/10 the product for infinitely more price?
Yeah, it was that thing was buffering a lot. Like that was buffering out, cutting out, and you're waiting for that one big lift, someone's third attempt, and all of a sudden nothing. And it's like that. Like you go on Instagram to see what they did. It was brutal.
Exactly. I ended up watching a lot of Instagram live stream.
Yeah.
Powerlifting Motivation was on the scene, doing an amazing job with them.
Yeah.
Shout out to Powerlifting Motivation.
So it was frustrating to me in an overall standpoint like that. It was not an easy thing to watch. It wasn't. Again, I didn't buy the stream. I just kind of saw highlights here and there. It was, and then just the feedback I had heard from it. It was that it was buffering a lot. Commentating was not up to par. At least on the first day, they didn't have a scoreboard coming in and out. They weren't telling you the placings.
Damn.
Stuff that was kind of like powerlifting live stream 101.
Watching a basketball game, you don't know the score. You're kind of like, what the shit am I watching? I see guys shooting and dunking, but where are we at? And if I could pat my back for a second there, I'm on the IPF World commentating team last year and this year, and but not just myself, but myself as well. But they dump 25K into their media team. They dump a lot of money into it's free, and this is where your membership fees go into, etc., and the sponsorships. They're not looking. It's a non-for-profit, so they're actually investing into the live stream, where they brought in a full-on, these TV guys they brought in for their live stream. This is what they do. So they have the slow-mo replays, several different camera angles. Brought in the best of the best commentators. So I mean, it's an enjoyable live stream, right?
Who's the commentator you were saying is best of the best?
I missed that day. What day was he working? I know what you mean. Where the finished product, all maybe it was different live. Maybe they put a lot more into the live, but more people are going to watch online. That's how powerlifting is growing so much. Is because we're so good online in terms of marketing.
Oh yeah, and it's a distance sport. It's why distance coaching works for powerlifting, and it's why people travel to compete. You don't have to be in the vicinity of where you're going to compete all the time. You can practice being far away from where you're going to compete. And so essentially having a good finished product, good videos to look at, good ways that we can analyze how lifts are happening, good ways to go back and watch the records and have multiple angles, so we don't end up with all the videos we've watched of the records broken of guys in monolifts with wraps on who are 3 inches high, but they say you can't judge depth from the side. And so it's you have the circus look, and then you have the kind of the clean cut professional look. And I think the U.S. Open was actually a huge step in the right direction in terms of where powerlifting is going to flourish. Just because, and I mean that monetary prize was a little bit unreal. The fact that the kind of the benefactor for that event was willing to just put up that cash with very little return is or at least very little return that I know of, is amazing to me. And I think it's very cool that he did that.
For sure.
Realistically,
he's doing it because he loves the sport. It wasn't a business decision, for sure.
Exactly. Realistically, long term, nobody's going to give away $100,000 a year.
Yeah.
That's how rich people become poor people. But
that's right.
it's but you set it up so you have a sponsored live stream and people are paying to be on it, and you're getting a couple 100,000 views on your live stream. You can start to raise some of that revenue, and you can start to essentially create a pathway for that money to flow in before it flows back out. And so there's obviously a lot of monetary strategic discussion to go on in terms of that, but I think US Open was cool. I think it missed the mark on a couple things, but I think fundamentally the idea is absolutely the direction that powerlifting should be heading. That's how you get the top level guys. That's how you start to get the real athletes. I mean, we have a couple examples of guys who should have been professional caliber, who are professional caliber athletes who just didn't quite go all the way. So a guy like Blaine Sumner made it all the way to the NFL Combine and had pretty good scores there. Or a guy like Ray Williams. These are guys that you would look at, and so a guy like Ray has probably had a destiny as a nose guard in the NFL, and instead of doing that, the man's squatting 1,000 pounds once a week.
Not bad.
And is that a fair trade-off long term? You know what, Ray is going to go down in history, but it's so you're going to start getting more people like that when they start to be financially incentivized. That it's there's not only one way that they can be paid as a professional athlete or be a professional athlete in general. There are other ways to get paid.
Hopefully they somewhat blend. Like, I don't know, even if they took maybe some of the money, because they had, you would have guys showing up for less than 40K, even if it was 30K, 25K. People would show up.
They didn't have guys showing up for $1,000.
Yeah. So
for sure.
Even if, I know they wanted to go big to make everyone talk about it. That was part of the publicity, was because of the purse. Take a bit of that money and maybe throw it into create, because I know the IPF, they drop money into the media to make it, like they invest some of that money and spread it into other streams as well, no pun intended, but you know what I mean? I think maybe, and it was the first US Open. I know it wasn't their first meet, but hopefully they're learning, they're gonna tell themselves, you know what, we got feedback, people want to see a better product online, because look, that's great, the lifters walk away with X amount, but the viewers, which is far more, walked away unsatisfied. The lifters probably like, shit, yeah. But the viewers, which is far more of them, kind of...
Yeah, I'm sure Ben Pollock is at home right now wiping his ass with dollar bills.
He's like Puff Daddy.
Not giving a shit.
Yeah, that's right.
For the rest of us, it's just kind of funny.
Yeah, I think you're right on where it's going on the US Open doing that. It's great for the thing, but it'd be nicer to see it if they do it. It's kind of like what they do with the CrossFit Games or something like that. A nice Coliseum, put it in, fill the stands, see what happens. See if they can fill the stands. When you have an event like that, like how many people will go?
Yeah, who knows? And the popularity's got to continue to grow, and I mean, you just don't get a crowd like that like you do for CrossFit. There's just more people doing CrossFit.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, it's even like the busiest day we had at Raw Nationals last year, we wouldn't have had enough people to fill a stadium. We probably had maybe and this was a giant audience, like 200 to 300, or maybe another 100 on top of that in the audience watching it once, which was awesome. Mm-hmm. But that's not enough to fill a stadium.
And the optics of it, you don't want to go too big and have too many empty seats because it looks even more barren. Whereas if you have a little tighter space for the audience, it looks packed. Looks like the house is packed. I think it is more, like you were saying earlier, a distance situation, online situation where people all over the world, okay, you can have more viewers that way. But if that's the case, and we know that's what powerlifting is, you gotta kill that aspect of the online. You gotta kill that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And you can get 100% of the same enjoyment watching a recording of powerlifting as you can watching it live, quite frankly.
Yeah.
And so, well, maybe not 100%, but 99%. Compared to other sports, watching live, I think you can get a pretty equal amount out of it, because a lot of the technical aspects you got to see up close, and you don't get to see those from the back row of an audience.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it's like you said. I think executing that live stream and that recording well is going to go a long way towards making those long term more memorable.
Yeah. So a couple things we want to ask before we let you go. I mean, we got a top level coach on here, and I think some people probably have some questions they want to ask towards you. Is what are some things that you would tell somebody starting out to look for when they approach a coach? Somewhat touched up on that they would need experience, but otherwise, a few aspects you would say, and some advice for people starting out with their first few competitions.
Okay, so looking for a coach, this is a fun question. And maybe I'm the wrong person to ask because I have high standards, but maybe I'm the right person to ask because I have high standards.
That's right. There you go.
I always like to start with the clients of a coach. You can tell so much about the creator of anything by their finished product. And so, find out who a few of their clients are and don't pick the standouts. If someone went and asked Garrett Blevins his opinion on me, number one, he'd probably lie and say I was a piece of shit, but just because he's a comedian that way. But and Garrett, if you hear this, that was a joke. But inside his head, he's like, yeah, I would. But no. So pick a couple of people who've been working with them for a while, find them, look them up. Everybody's got a damn hashtag, and talk to them and ask them what their experience has been like, how the communication is with their coach, how receptive their coach is to their needs. All these things are important aspects of good coaching, and things that I've gotten kind of more in tune with over time. Sometimes just some examples. I've had clients come to me who've worked with coaches previously that their program would be a little bit too intense. Week to week, the progressions will be too hard, and they weren't able to finish stuff. And so they would go to their coach, and their coach would basically give them the "don't be a pussy, man up and do it" talk. And that's baffling. I mean, that's honestly astounding. That's not coaching. That is your own stubbornness and your unwillingness to accept that you wrote something a little bit too aggressive for one person, which is inherent. Everyone's a little different, so you're not going to create a program that's going to be perfect for everyone. Mm-hmm. You just won't. That doesn't work that way. And so that willingness to admit your own imperfections, that's kind of a hard thing to identify in someone, but I think talking to their clients and seeing how their communication is and what their kind of interpretation of their coach on a personal level is, at least in terms of their relationship with their clients. On top of that, obviously, you can generally tell based on kind of the broad scale success of their clients, if generally speaking, the people they're coaching are doing pretty well, then you will probably thrive. Injury rates, that is one that's often not talked about. Some coaches tend to have more clients come out the back end with injuries, where other coaches do not. And so you obviously want someone who is going to, number one, design programming that's not going to get you hurt, and number two, understand how to change it to suit your needs when you do get hurt, or how to put you in touch with someone who will. There are a lot of coaches and non-practitioners out there who try to avoid having their clients go to physical therapists, chiropractors, etc., to get the help that they need. And I think that's a huge misstep. Just because we're not, as coaches, we're not equipped for that. That's not. I mean, I have a surface level knowledge of a couple problems that I personally have had, but beyond that, I'm always more than happy to refer out to a professional.
How refreshing is it if you talk to a coach and he can say, "That's not my area of expertise. I think you should ask someone else." Like macros. If you're not a macro guy, if you don't know your shit with it, don't try to be. Just be like, you know what? You might want to consult a macro, coaching, or etc. with like Cairo or whatever. It's refreshing where someone's actually humble enough to be like, this is outside my area of expertise. I can kill it in here. Outside, I'm gonna refer you. That's huge. Yeah. You should be skeptical of someone who tries to pretend that they're an expert at everything. Right?
Yeah, and I've actually personally established some relationships with practitioners where I actually refer people and they get a discount by going to particular practitioners, and it's worked out nicely in that way. It's not like there's a personal kickback there. It's just these are people that I trust, and I wanted to kind of send people in their direction because they've done well by me. And so I think those are some good things to look at to start. Beyond that, how successful they are as a lifter personally, I don't think is hugely important. Who their friends are, I don't think is hugely important. A lot of these things are how big their social media following is. These are all things that people tend to tie together with how qualified they think a coach is, or it may even be subconscious, right? You might look at someone's page who says powerlifting coach, and they might have 178,000 followers on Instagram, and you're like, wow, this guy's got to be pretty legit. Yeah. And where the fact of the matter is, they were in a couple videos with this particular guy, and now they're popular.
Yeah.
And so you kind of got to wade through the bullshit to find to find the truth about someone sometimes, but I think it all starts with talking to their clients, most importantly. And then you asked a second question that is slipping my mind.
Yeah, it's about anyone starting out, advice for within your first year when you're approaching, your first competition, first few competitions, goal setting, etc., and how to handle those.
So when it comes to first few competitions, if you spend a little bit of time reading the rules of execution in terms of the lifts, you'll save yourself a lot of pain at your first couple meets. They're just 2 or 3 pages in the rule book. The rules about equipment are good. I butt heads with people all the time who come to their first meet and have like zippered knee sleeves and zippered singlets and double ply elite FTS knee sleeves and stuff like that we just don't allow. And so, this isn't the same with every organization. So go and read the rule book for your organization, get a little bit of an understanding of what equipment you're allowed to wear, in some cases what brands you're allowed to wear, and understand the rules of executing the lifts. Attend your lifter meeting that's 30 minutes before the commencement of the competition that's actually just dedicated to ensuring that lifters understand the rules. So I've been to more competitions than I could count at this point, and I still attend the lifter meeting just for a memory refresher.
Oh yeah, no kidding.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't miss it. I consider it kind of a mutual respect thing with the referees, though. It's like sometimes,
You're the studious knight. See, I think that would be you in high school. I was the guy who slept in and skipped class, right? So.
Oh, yeah, no, I never skipped class, man. Keep in mind, I do that background. I am still an engineer, so it's very much analytical.
Yeah.
And and when it comes to goal setting, first couple meets, we all inherently, you're a man, you go to your first meet, you're like, I want to squat 300 pounds. I want to bench 250, I want to deadlift 400. And you go in and, you make one attempt on all 3 lifts and you're 50 pounds shot.
Yeah.
And so that's a crap way to go into your first meets. I think setting more conservative goals, getting experience on the platform, and just, I think in your first few meets, making more lifts is going to be more important, going 9 for 9, as it were.
Yeah.
It's going to be an opportunity for you to get excited about the sport, because if you go 3 for 9, you're going to have a bad time. You're not going to want to do it again.
Yeah.
If you go 9 for 9, you're going to be on fire for your next competition. You're going to come back and do it again and repeat. And then eventually you start to understand the rules. You start to understand your limits, how you respond to the competition environment. And then you start to be able to plan a little bit more aggressively as you become more competitive. So in those initial phases, I think just planning to go out and set a small PR, or to match your gym PR. If you set it like a 50-pound PR on your squat 3 weeks ago, aiming for another 10 or 15 pounds on top of that might be a little bit ambitious.
Yeah.
And so, aiming just to hit that number in a competition environment where judges are telling you you're squatting deep enough and you're following the rules is a fair success.
That's what some people don't realize. If you're not in the sport and haven't competed and you're just going by your gym lifts, it's like, look, when you walk in and I feel good today, I'm going to go for my max squat. It's a way different ball game than when you're at a competition, whether you feel good or not, that was the day, and did you cut? The judges are going to be tough on you. You don't go when you want to go. You have X amount of time to warm up. The things go, like, it's stressful, right? And that's where people might not understand.
You got 9 lifts and 3 full workouts going in. You're warming up. You're doing it. That's what people don't get.
You hit something in the gym for a deadlift. It's different at the end of a long-ass day, and you're stressed the whole night. Then you deadlift.
Yeah.
It's different.
Yeah. Yeah, it's absolutely different, and everyone responds differently. Some people get a huge performance uptick at meets. Some people don't see an uptick at all. It really, really varies in terms of how you train and how you respond to training. So I think, especially in those early phases, being a little bit more conservative in your goals. Something I tell people a lot is to keep context on their goals and essentially understand that they're not winning any national championships at their first few meets. Just go have some fun, make some lifts.
Well, there was that one girl from Canada.
She's
the outlier.
I hear she has a world class.
That's right. That's right. There you go, buddy. You brought it full circle.
No. That's my one little dose of me for the day. But it's you can always think of examples, right? You can always name an outlier, but for the most part, generally planning a little more conservatively is going to be better.
And one last question, and this has been a great interview. It's a good interview when time flies because we're rocking and rolling with the conversation.
Yeah.
How would you like to be remembered when all's said and done and you look back in your powerlifting career?
This is a funny question because you look at powerlifting now And I don't know a lot of people who, I don't know if I know the single name of a coach prior to the current generation of coaches. And so I can say something like I want to be remembered for having created a generation of great athletes, but I don't know that anyone's going to remember me for that. Or maybe that's just because coaching and powerlifting is bigger now than it used to be, which is also
100%,
possible.
100% it is bigger now.
So I mean, ideally, I would like to kind of leave a mark in terms of creating just a whole group of great athletes, and for having been loved by them pretty much universally. I haven't really had anyone who's disliked me from at least people I'm coaching, and so to be able to share kind of my passion with them is awesome, because I've loved powerlifting since I did it for the first time, and basically to pass that on it's kind of special for me to be able to share my passion for some people and kind of get them on fire for it. And so hopefully if I can inspire a further generation of people like myself, that would be cool.
And how much would it mean to actually coach a guy right to the, or a girl right to the world championships, get a world champion?
Ask me at the end of June and I'll tell you.
Whoa, hey, shots fired, that a boy, I like it. Any sponsors or anyone you want to thank before we let you go?
You know, I don't really have a traditional sponsor per se. You know, I'm incredibly grateful to my friends, the guys at the Strength Athlete, and to my coach, Alberto Nunez. I'm inspired by those guys every day and inspired to just be better as a coach and as a human being. So just for those guys, and obviously my girlfriend, Christine. You're beautiful, and I love you.
Boy, that's
so
good advice.
So if anyone wants to contact you, Hani, how do they get a hold of you?
That's right, yeah. If they want
so I'm on Instagram at Hani_TSA, that's HANI. And then you can email me, Hani at thestrengthathlete.com. And that's pretty much universally the best way to get a hold of me.
And strengthathlete.com is the website, and you get all types of materials from there. And
yeah, we got a blog up there. You can access all of our podcasts. We just put out a pretty solid one about peaking this past week, actually, that I would highly recommend listening to. A couple of good episodes up there. The one before that was with Preston Turner talking about equipped and raw powerlifting. We've got one with Dr. Quinn Hennock about injuries. There's a few good ones up there, and we have a few good ones pending as well. So I'm really excited about what we've done so far with that.
Sounds good, buddy. Thanks for coming on. I'd love to have you back, either before the Worlds or after the Worlds. Either way, I'm going to see you at the Worlds. Good luck with everything,
yeah,
buddy.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. I appreciate the time, guys.
Thanks, buddy. Have a good one.
All right. Bye-bye.
I love having coaches on, eh? Because
it's a different perspective, but the thing is, most powerlifting coaches are either ex-athletes or athletes.
Yeah.
Like, they're still in the business, right?
Yeah.
So what's interesting about him, it was just what I was waiting for. I was kind of hoping he would say when you asked him what he'd be remembered for. You know, in other sports like football or basketball, they write programs or they write plays that'll be carried on for years. Like they call it that play or whatever. I think as a coach, I think it'd be neat if you designed a program, say like what he did for Garrett or whatever. Garrett's an offbeat because he's quick and coming through, but you gave someone a program and you look at a 10%, 15%, 20% increase every year. You know what I mean? Like you can get that out of your athletes and you can prove it. It'd be pretty neat to have your program, the Hani program.
yeah,
you know what I mean? Like you gotta.
It is the thing with powerlifting, like
it evolves so fast.
so
and each
fucking fast.
And I mean,
man.
we've done 20 interviews now, and the thing is, everybody has a different program.
And there's another thing, like he said, hit it nail right on the head. Is you can have that program, and it'll probably like for 80% of the masses, but it feels like everybody's programs at the elite level are so different.
It's designed for them.
It would really be hard to do a program that would do that for everybody. I think when you first start out, the first 4 years-ish, you could be on the general program to get you caught up, and that's where maybe like the Hani program gets you. But in terms of, that's where it'd be tough. I'm not saying it won't happen, but to make that one program that the actual elite could use, because it feels like once you get to the top, it starts becoming...
Well, I mean, elite coach, when you're an elite athlete, you have an elite coach. I mean, no matter what sport it is, you got to know the athlete. The coach has to know the athlete. It's not going to be... You're not going to give them that one program that works. It's not the...
Because these guys are all doing everything. It's rep ranges.
It's not the Mickey Rocky Balboa story. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like the one thing, beat some cattle and you're going to be the champ. You know, like
which I'm actually trying. I beat the fuck out of a cow on the way here.
But the thing is, like, I like talking to him. He has good takes on it and humble. Like he's humble in what he's done.
I like his. He's like the opposite of me when he throws in a one-liner joke, he's so reserved. He's straight man humor.
Yeah.
Which I'm like the other side, the obnoxious douchebag.
But he was it was good to talk to, and
I want to have him on again.
It was for sure, and it was when he said the coaching. Not too many people remember powerlifting coaching. Nobody really knows.
That's true. Back in the day,
I agree.
Nowadays, coaches are like.
But wait a second. I was going to say back in the day, yes. But now, like, there's ones that are standing out that will be remembered. Like,
and he said that though. I think he was saying
like Chad Wesley Smith is up there on a name that will be remembered. Like, there's other ones I can rhyme off, but he's one that pops in me.
Yeah.
That you see him everywhere now.
And he's I think like what he said was true. Where I think that's what he was saying though. He didn't just dive into it, but I think previously you wouldn't be able to think of a coach, whereas nowadays because of social media, coaches are actually being higher. Some of them are higher revered than the athletes.
But we called that since the first episode. When you get into coaching and handling, it's going to take over a different role now because of the sport growing so fast. Yeah. I mean, people know the coaches of the NFL. I mean,
it's like good. You were born a freak. You were probably going to excel no matter what. Like he was saying, some of these guys are going to excel with or without me. But the coach actually has to problem solve and make certain things happen.
Okay, but here's the thing about the sport. The sport was so. This isn't it's been around for a long time, but the amount of people that are in it was not there. So the freaks of nature, as we get going, and I don't mean to call them freaks of nature, but the way it stands out is that those people will become less and less as the standouts that in 1 or 2 years broke a world record. I do not believe that that's going to continue. Like, you're going to see it for a bit. You know, his athlete, Christine Castro, Isabella von Weisberg, 2 years in, breaks. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, those athletes are going to start dropping off. You're not. I don't believe you're going to see that as much.
Because everybody will be special.
And there's so many other people in there now. Like, it's the
talent pool gets thicker. Yeah. 100%.
So you're not going to see that. Like, these people that are standing out and those coaches that are taking the credit for that one athlete that did it, you know, and like he said, when you go down the thing, that's what I completely agree. Give me 10 of your worst lifters and show me percentage based.
Yeah, very well said.
Body weight and percentage based. Not that they put on 50 pounds and 50 pounds on their total.
Yeah. Well, that's another thing too. Ooh, this guy's total went up. No shit. Listen, I gotta piss out of my fat dick like you don't even know.
Put this one down.
So, peace. It's been a good one.
Yeah.
Talk to you the next time.